Joker, parentheses, 2019, starring Joaquin Phoenix as everyone's favorite DC villain, the Joker. This is a movie that, from the beginning, didn't seem necessary. We don't really need an origin story for the Joker, even though we've previously gotten Joker backgrounds in film, like the 1989 Batman. We even got it in comic books, like The Killing Joke. So it's not necessarily a new idea, but for me, I prefer to have my Joker be someone with no origin, with no strict guidelines for how he lives his life. I like interpretations of the Joker that we saw in the Christopher Nolan films, The Dark Knight. I like the really goofy side of Joker that we got out of Cesar Romero, but wasn't really a big fan of what they did in the Suicide Squad, even though they still kind of did something different with the Joker there. He was more of a gangster in that movie. So every interpretation of the Joker has been somewhat different from the last. This one is, yes, an original take. But we get a lot more backstory, we get a better explanation as to why this character is the way he is, and we also get a look into his personality and the mental state he might have been in when he first started up his career as the Joker. I was excited about this movie right from the beginning. I thought Todd Phillips was an interesting choice for director, seeing that he hadn't really tackled any project quite like the Joker before. He had only really done comedies in the past and War Dogs. I thought the Joker had a lot of potential just based on the fact that Hangover Part 3, while not a very good movie, has a lot of good moments when it's just being a straight up mafia movie. Yeah, I actually like those moments in that movie, and I figured if he did an entire movie that was centered around villains, maybe he could make something work. And I think the Joker proved that. I thought this was a very well-made movie with an excellent performance from Joaquin Phoenix. I was kind of wondering if there's a way to even top Heath Ledger at this point. It doesn't seem like it. With Joaquin Phoenix's take on the character, it definitely sticks out from what Heath Ledger did. He didn't do the same thing, but instead brought a completely different take to the character, even to the point where it may not be the character. The movie kind of leaves it up to the audience to decide if this is in fact the Joker, or if he just influenced a later imposter. Who knows? I don't really like that take, because I like to think that the Joker didn't really base his persona on anything. You know, it's just of its own. So I like to think he really is the Joker. But with this interpretation, we have more motivations, and we also have an all-around thought process to his political ideology. Even though the movie keeps trying to introduce this idea that he doesn't have a political ideology, it seems that he does, especially during the final scene. But I will ignore all that, because that's me getting things out of the character that I didn't necessarily want to see for the Joker, you know, I guess as a Joker purist. But just as a standalone movie that has nothing to do with any of the other comic books or movies set in the Batman universe, I think it's fine that they did something completely different. It's kind of weird that I thought this movie would be completely outside the world of Batman and it would focus entirely on the Joker. We do get some Batman stuff in this movie. The Waynes are in this movie. We have Thomas Wayne, who is interpreted completely different from what I've ever seen in the past, and it was, to me, kind of the highlight of the movie as far as changing previous work and making something new out of it. He was an interesting, more realistic take on Thomas Wayne. He seemed more believable, hasn't been in the comics much, in the movies really at all. He's always just kind of a stand-in for an all-around good billionaire. He was one of the good guys. I like this take on it more because it gives him a more three-dimensional personality. There's more to him than, oh, I'm just trying to bring goodness to the streets. We also have a wonderful performance by Robert De Niro, who, to a point, he's almost got a cameo-sized role. He's not in the movie too much, but when he's in the movie, he steals the show. Obviously, paying a lot of tribute to the King of Comedy, as he had previously said, playing up a lot of what Johnny Carson did back in the 80s. He's basically taken a lot of notes from that real-life personality and making his own TV show host. It's also kind of funny that Robert De Niro's in this movie, seeing that the Joker takes a lot of inspiration from Taxi Driver and the Travis Bickle character. I like the choices of music and how they're kind of trying to take popular tunes or songs you've at least heard in the past and changing them to, get a different feeling from. Sort of what A Clockwork Orange did with Singing in the Rain. And the movie's not as violent as I think people made it out to be. There was a lot of conversation about this movie beforehand, before it was even released. It was by far the most controversial movie of 2019. Being a DC fan, of course I was excited to see it, but I could understand a lot of what people were bringing up as far as issues with this movie. As far as inciting violence, I never believe in that. It's the same thing with video games, Do video games really cause violence? No. Do movies cause violence? No. But you can get, inspiration. Obviously, the very tragic event in 2012, the Colorado shooting that happened at The Dark Knight Rises, there were many reports that that person who committed those murders was influenced by the Joker. He wanted to be the Joker or called himself the Joker. In any case, so that's inspiration. Does that really mean that he wasn't still going to take out an attack? I don't know. See, this is just kind of a difficult conversation. To me, though, I don't believe that any movie should really get censored. However, I do feel that this movie probably will embolden people to maybe feel a certain way that they were already feeling. Maybe they'll relate to the character too much, kind of in a dark way. The same thing has happened with Taxi Driver. I think a lot of people kind of look at that movie in the wrong way. I think they read the ending completely wrong, the character completely wrong. I guess it could be one of those things that's up to interpretation, but I feel like it's very obvious what the direction of that movie is, and it's amazing how some people can read it completely different. With the Joker, the only thing that I really feel like will primarily annoy me about this movie is I feel like this movie will show up in a lot of memes or captions, photos that people will share online or will just discuss about how this movie is about bullying and how bullying is bad, and if you bully, things like this can happen. I don't really think that is the best interpretation of the movie, obviously, and I'm just kind of spitballing. I have no idea what people are thinking. To be honest, a lot of people's predictions of how people would interpret this movie seem completely wrong. It seemed mostly based on The Killing Joke, which was about a man who just had one bad day and he completely changed. Joker's not really that way. It's obvious from the very first scene in the movie that the character of Arthur Fleck has issues beyond just having bullies in his life or having everything go wrong. He has mental issues. But once again, that's a completely different topic. Should this movie really be a good representation of mental health issues? Yeah, I don't know. Because then we start blaming mental health for all, violence that happens in the world, and obviously that's not true either. So I feel like this movie will pinpoint people in two different directions that I think are both wrong. I think that it's just supposed to be a movie about a guy who already is kind of a little messed up in the head, who is a sociopath, who becomes a psychopath, and the people around him take that character and read the whole situation the wrong way, and they use him as an inspiring message rather than looking at the actual problematic issues that character has. But I wonder if the movie's maybe thinking it's a lot more deep than it actually is. It doesn't really go deep into all these issues, and there's times where it seems like the movie's really getting at a good point. I'll say that the scene where they show a bunch of TV screens playing all at once on different local news and cable shows about the incident, the audience is seeing all the different screens playing it. It does kind of make me think of, wow, when school shootings happen or different acts of violence happen, especially in America, they do constantly play scenes from the events, and they constantly are showing images of the person. If you watch this movie simply as a character movie about a character who completely falls apart, being already broken from the beginning, and how he becomes a crazy character like the Joker, I think it's great. It still has its offensive moments and violent moments, but not nearly as much as I thought they would have. It really did feel like a Todd Phillips movie when they started making fun of the little person, which I feel like I know why they put it in the movie, because he's just like Arthur. People bully him, but he handles it in a different way than Arthur does. But I don't really know what kind of message that's trying to get across, or really, I don't know what that's trying to say. That's what I mean. To me, it kind of just feels like they're making fun of a little person. In fact, during one of the scenes, which I feel is supposed to be more terrifying than funny, we had people in the audience laughing. And that's what I mean. I don't really know what they're trying to say with some of these scenes. But just as a character-based movie, watching Joaquin Phoenix give an unbelievable performance, along with other characters who are also being given wonderful talent behind it, and a story that I think is easy to comprehend and does the job. It's still enjoyable, it's scary, and it's about a character that we all know and love, but it's a different adaptation of it. So as far as all that goes, I think it's a really good movie. Kind of watching it in the perspective of a Batman 1989 prequel, seeing that the movie takes place in the 80s, and it also does show certain events from the 89 movie, just done a little differently. I guess if you go from the perspective that this isn't the Joker, and the Joker influenced, this Joker influenced a different person who then became the Joker, I feel like the movie maybe is going for that angle, and just to me, I feel like I could write it as this is a, Batman 1989 prequel. So with that, I definitely have some conflicting ideas about what the movie's trying to say, but just on an entertainment level, I think this movie gets a 4 out of 5 stars. It's not one of the best Batman movies, it's not one of the best DC movies, but it's still up there. So what do you think of Joker 2019? Do you think it deserved all the controversy that it got? Do you think it's kind of overhyped? And how do you think the movie is as far as being a Joker story? Do you feel it does no justice for the character, or do you like the new take on things we've seen before?
Thanks to all my Patreon supporters. For only $7, you can get your own monthly movie review. Ask me to review anything I haven't already. There's also other perks like blogs, exclusive videos, and early access. You can also follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And thanks so much for watching this video.